Do you see an ethical issue with what happens to animals for food, clothing, other products?
As someone with a beating moral heart, it's hard to say no. I do eat a lot of non-organic meat and meat that surely has been farmed in unethical ways, etc., etc. So, long-winded way of saying yes.
Do you think that the world would be a better place if more people stopped funding these things?
Yes, but for me it doesn't equate into stop eating animals altogether.
Okay.
But yeah, bad practices of farming and breeding animals, yeah, I'm all for that.
How would you describe a good way to farm and kill an animal?
Well, you see, I'm not exactly sure, because I'm quite ignorant of the topic.
I appreciate the honesty. A lot of people will say that factory farming, which is where most meat, dairy and eggs comes from, is bad because the animals are crammed into factories where there's thousands of them in there, they're standing in their own feces, they're living miserable lives, and so they say, that's bad, but what if we give an animal a nice life for maybe a year and then we kill them? They'll say, isn't that better? And I say, yes, it is better, but is it still ethical? I have a dog at home. He has a pretty nice life. Would it be okay for me to go home and cut his throat?
The answer to your question specifically, without the broader topic, is no, it wouldn't be ethical.
Yes.
But you see, this kind of conversation probably needs hours and hours, given how my mind thinks and how I'm inclined to. But someone like me and many people around the world, we believe in God and believe God gave us animals. I'm very confident and comfortable that God has given us animals, a lot of animals, not all of them, but a lot of them, some of them, to eat. Okay. And that doesn't make me immoral based on my worldview, nor does it make him take anything away from him.
Okay.
But I need to also say that I really, really, really would despise all practices that are necessarily evil, such as factory farming. Yeah. So.
I've actually had conversations with people that have given a similar response. Just for transparency, I don't believe in God, but I'm more than happy to discuss with people that do. Do you believe this God is all-loving and all-compassionate?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you believe that an all-loving and all-compassionate God would be okay with harming and killing animals unnecessarily?
The answer is no, but I wouldn't grant that the killing of animals through we're not going to go into it, through my religious tradition, through slaughter, etc., we don't grant it as unethical.
I know what you're saying, but just to make sure you fully grasp the question I'm getting at. Yeah. If you need to harm someone for, I don't know, self-defense or something, or you need to harm an animal to protect yourself, I'm assuming an all-loving and compassionate God wouldn't have a problem with that, because they understand you need to protect yourself and sometimes harm is necessary, right?
Yeah, got that.
Yeah, right. So would an all-loving and compassionate God be okay with causing harm unnecessarily when you don't need to?
So, this is it, the issue of harm and pain and suffering and disease, killing and illness and all these things, and viruses and bacteria, I'm a medical student, all these things, for me, it's tangled in with my theology and many other people's theology, in that it's not such a black and white, pain equals bad.
How I would explain it is, because my view of ethics is something called, have you heard of consequentialism or utilitarianism?
Yeah, of course, Bentham, Mill.
Exactly, yeah.
Situational.
Yeah, so consequences or situations that cause more unnecessary harm than they prevent, that's unethical or immoral, right?
Yeah.
And so in situations where we are causing more harm to animals than is needed, don't you think that's unethical, and don't you think an all-loving God would think that was unethical?
Sadly, I don't think they're mutually exclusive, but someone outside of my or other traditional theological conceptions of God, that, let's say Abrahamic, whatever, I get, because I spend a lot of time around people and I empathise and they're my friends and stuff, people have your kind of opinion.
Yeah.
I get how you come to that conclusion very easily, but for me, you get to that conclusion, I think, very logically, very thoroughly, very systematically, but based on a different kind of
worldview,
naturalistic
basically.
Kind of.
Yeah. But even if I adopt your worldview, though, let's say right now, bam, I'm a theist, I believe in God, right? If I believe that God was truly all-loving and all-compassionate, right, that was the God that I believed in, because he's all-loving, he cares about the feelings and the well-being of all the sentient beings that live on this planet, right? Would you agree? Yeah, cool. So if he cares about the feelings and the well-being of all the sentient beings on this planet, he would know that sentient beings don't want to be harmed and don't want to be killed, right? And so if I then harmed or killed a sentient being when I didn't need to, surely an all-loving God would be against that, right?
Yeah, it's a very good argument. I don't grant it because for us, I think there is a difference in need. I see again, maybe I sound a bit wishy-washy, but I'm very empathic to this point of view.
Yeah.
I just don't agree with it. The reason I don't agree with it is, again, from my worldview, there is a reason, there is a purpose for that sheep, or that chicken, or that fish. Part of the purpose of a fish or a chicken is that it could well be slaughtered for food, as it has been through time. That doesn't negate an all-loving God, because, well, that's just like the gap that you would have to jump to me that you're not. I don't know if that makes
Do you
sense.
think it would be possible? I'm just going to test your worldview with regards to what you're saying, just so I can understand where you're coming from.
problem, yeah.
Would it be possible for an all-loving God to create humans with the purpose of being slaughtered?
That's a bit tricky, I feel.
Would it be hypothetically possible? I'm not saying that is the case, but could a loving God do that? Would you still be able to consider that loving?
So their purpose would principally be to be slaughtered.
Yes. Would that be a loving purpose to give a human?
That's really difficult because slaughter happens in the world, and I still believe in a God, with or without this discussion. So I don't know. I'll load and say I don't know how to answer.
I appreciate the honesty again. So what the point I'm trying to get at is, I don't think that it's compatible to believe in a loving God and also believe that that loving God would be okay with you causing harm, suffering and death when it isn't absolutely necessary. And so even if you have sort of theological reasons why that doesn't quite click in your mind, maybe you could go away and think about it. But all I'm saying is, if you at least agree with me that harming animals when we don't need to is a cruel thing to do, then I think that if we can be healthy and live long, happy lives without farming and killing animals, then I think that is the ethical thing to do.
I wouldn't grant that it's objectively evil to do. It's subjectively evil based on certain worldviews that aren't mine. But my objective view that comes from, it's kind of top down. God, divine command theory, do this, don't
So
do that.
do you subscribe to divine command theory?
Yes, I do.
I usually give people this at the end, but I'm saying, on this is my YouTube channel. I have a video about this topic, and so I think you should watch it.
You seem very open-minded and fun and vibrant.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I've been enjoying the conversation with you as well. If you believe in divine command theory, that means that whatever a God says is necessarily the moral thing to do, right?
100%.
Okay.
Because the source is all goodness, all love. Doesn't mean he's without punishment or inflicting pain. You know.
Is being loving and compassionate to do with caring about the well-being of others, trying to minimize the harm and suffering in the world, trying to increase the happiness in the world? Is that what being loving, is that kind of what being loving is?
Yes, but it's not all of being loving. Being loving is also, so as a medical student a few days ago, I was in surgery, and surgery is very painful. If you get on the operating table, you might not get up. There's a load of risks and side effects.
Yes.
It's traumatic, but it's a loving thing to do to save someone's life.
Sure, because at the end of the day, I'm sure you'll agree with me, you're caring about their well-being in the long run, even though some things could go wrong.
Yes.
You want them to live a long and happy life after the surgery, right?
Yes.
So being caring, being compassionate, caring about the well-being of others, if that's what being loving is, or at least part of what being loving is, don't you think that a loving God would want more of that and less harm and suffering?
Yeah. I think there's plenty of, I see love everywhere.
Do you think there's love in a factory farm or a slaughterhouse?
You've got me at the, I'll just think before I answer, I won't rush
Okay.
Yes, not for the methods I've denounced, and
Yes.
if I could and I should, and I'm very culpable and ashamed not to look out for more organic, more ethical ways of farming, no problem, and I'm kind of financially okay enough to do that, so that's just that's a stain. That's that. But in terms of as ethically as possible to slaughter animals and to feed millions of people, that is a loving thing.
If the God is indeed all loving, and there were two ways of feeding the world, one which causes significantly less suffering, harm and misery, and one that causes more suffering, harm and misery, which one do you think a loving God would want us to do?
You see, this is where the worldviews are kind of there's a bit of a barrier.
Yeah.
Because the worldview of utilitarianism, again, I'm in a very basic, but I understand it, I know what it is. You'd go for the vegetarian, the vegan lifestyle, no problem.
Yeah.
I get it, and I get Meat is Murder, I get Peter Singer, I get all these guys, they're really, really good people. I think it will never completely mix. So we could be, me and you, for example, I think we could agree on most things, morality-wise.
Yeah.
We get on really well. But this, I would never jump.
I understand that with your sort of moral foundations and your worldview are going to shape how exactly.
It's
Yeah, I get you.
Rooted. And it just doesn't just shape this; it shapes literally.
It shapes everything. Yeah, exactly. One thing, or a couple of things I would leave you with then would be that eating meat isn't mandated in your religion, is it? It's not that you have to.
No.
It's just that you are permitted to.
No, yeah, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't really sin for not eating it. Yeah.
Okay, so if that's the case, if you put yourself in the position of the animal. Say, for example, you are a cow who's being pushed into a slaughterhouse and you're scared, you're terrified, and someone's coming at you with a bolt gun. It's not been mandated that they need to do this to you. Sure. Would you want them to stop?
Yeah, surely. I think I would be unfair not to grant that.
Yeah.
And actually, and I'm just saying this for lip service, you've done really, really well just to kind of wake me up to like, okay, I should go away and look at how I'm eating meat, because I think that's a progression. I can eat meat that's better ethically farmed. I think it's incumbent upon me, in line with, to be consistent with my worldview, and for you not to think that I have some flimsy worldview, is that I've got to look at everything, how I'm treating, and I'll be accountable to this in front of God. Like, no, I'll literally ask me about all these things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was really cool.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks so much for the
Take
chat.
care.
I was going to say, yeah, I've given you my card,
I'll
haven't
check
I?
You have a
platform
platform and
yeah,
stuff.
YouTube channels on the
you're
card.
really good.
Yeah, thanks, I appreciate that. You too.